but he wanted me to do it for nothing. I wonder what it was specifically that sparked his Trumper tantrum, no doubt, but even busier for our embattled former president, who I guess in an attempt to mend the wall between himself and the Latino community. Oh, let's find out.
Buenas noches, and welcome to the Univision interview of Donald Trump.
It's an idea he got from our My Pillow pal, Mike Lindell, who promised Trump he would be reinstated August 13th, 2021, 8 months into Biden's term. I guess that didn't happen?
Jimmy Kimmel called Donald Trump a taco, and the internet couldn't resist. From AI-generated taco memes to an unexpected reaction from Trump himself, this nickname didn't just stick, it became a full-blown internet festival. Here's why this silly joke caused such serious backlash. Before we move on, I would like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. What does it take for someone like Don Jr. to feel so rattled that he calls the cops? Apparently, just a couple of late-night jokes. This bizarre moment unfolded after Jimmy Kimmel's monologue took Don Jr. from secondhand embarrassment to what could only be described as a full-blown call the authorities meltdown. Kimmel, as usual, was doing what he does best, poking fun at a powerful family embroiled in yet another scandal. But this time, his punchlines hit way too close to home for Trump's eldest son. The incident started brewing during one of Kimmel's monologues, where he broke down Donald Trump's ongoing fraud trial with his signature blend of sarcasm and biting humor. The courtroom drama surrounding Trump's alleged inflated assets was already making headlines, but Kimmel decided to shine an extra bright spotlight on Don Jr.'s role in the chaos. And by shine, I mean he brought out the floodlights, joking about everything from Don Jr.
And I had like 80 texts when I woke up sending me this article from Rolling Stone. It says, Trump White House pressured Disney to censor Jimmy Kimmel. Now, Disney is the company that owns ABC, our network, and Jimmy Kimmel is... The amount of ass-kissing in this trial is insane. DJ TJ, of course, denies any and all wrongdoing and is instead going with the "our accountants did it" defense. The first time Donald Trump ever tries to stop someone from talking about him on television, and it's me. Usually when he wants somebody to stop talking about him, he pays them $130,000. Don Jr., he's so embarrassing. He's on the stand, he's testifying in this $250 million fraud trial, and he has to compliment, he said his father is an artist with real estate.
Courtroom defenses to his unwavering loyalty to his father. Loyalty that, according to Kimmel, looked less like genuine support and more like desperate damage control. To set the scene, the courthouse had already been a media circus, with protesters chanting "crime family" outside as cameras flashed and reporters crowded every corner. If you weren't sure who they were talking about, the imagery was clear. Signs with slogans directly aimed at Trump and his empire painted the family as cartoon villains. This public sentiment seemed to provide Kimmel with all the ammunition he needed to zero in on Don Jr. during his show. One standout moment in Kimmel's bit involved him dissecting Don Jr.'s courtroom testimony, which had made waves for its predictably over-the-top defense of his father. Citing the fraud allegations, Kimmel joked Don Jr. looked like he just Googled, "How does one lawyer?" before stepping into court. The crowd roared at the sheer absurdity of the situation. But that wasn't all. Kimmel doubled down, mocking Don Jr. for what he called his dad's favorite yes-man routine, hinting that Jr.'s loyalty might be more about inheriting a troubled empire than a genuine belief in his father's innocence. The jabs just kept piling on. Somehow, though, it was one joke in particular that sent Don Jr. over the edge. Kimmel referred to the Trump family as the real-life Addams family, but without the charm.
A Big Five accounting firm, like one of the biggest accounting firms in the world, I can pay them millions of dollars. I rely on them to do accounting, but I'm supposed to know more than them. By this logic, insurance companies are going to start suing patients.
We have Donald Trump Jr., who was in court again this morning. There he is. You hear the protesters chanting crime family, and that is basically what these people are, a crime family. I love my father. He's saying that his father, the father of the hotel gym, is a guy who's never stepped inside one. But hasn't stopped Mike Lindell. The Pillow Man is still at it, zooming into his TV live stream from all over the place. He seems to be traveling constantly. Why, we do not know, but we did spend some time
That line got a wave of laughter, but apparently it struck a nerve because not long after, Don Jr. reportedly reached out to authorities over what he claimed was harassment. For context, Kimmel's Addams Family bit wasn't even the harshest line of the night. He went on to mimic Don Jr.'s courtroom demeanor, impersonating him, fumbling through basic legal terms, clutching stacks of papers, and sweating through his smiles. Which, to be fair, did get some sharp laughs from the audience. But calling the cops over satire? Not a good look, Donnie. What makes this reaction so absurd is that public figures being roasted on late-night TV isn't exactly breaking news. Politicians, celebrities, and public personalities deal with it all the time, yet somehow, jokes seem to hit the Trump camp differently. Instead of rolling with the punches, the response is often the same, a disproportionate overreaction that turns one joke into a headline. The aftermath of this particular joke, heard around the internet, was no exception. Once news broke that Don Jr. had taken things up a notch by involving law enforcement, the public's reaction was swift and merciless. Memes flooded Twitter, of course. One viral image showed Don Jr. holding a phone with the caption, "911, I'd like to report a savage burn." Another compared him to a hall monitor whose authority just got questioned. Even Kimmel himself later shrugged off the incident, joking that it's nice to know at least someone is watching my monologues that closely. But circling back, why would Don Jr. take this so personally? The answer may lie in the broader context of his family's legacy and what's at stake for him personally. Unlike his siblings, Don Jr. has consistently positioned himself as Trump's most vocal supporter, even to the point of parody. Whether on social media or during interviews, he often parrots his father's rhetoric and defends him with a fervor that borders on obsession. For him, these jokes aren't just about Donald Trump, they're about his own identity and standing within the Trump brand. To put it simply, when you live in the shadow of the family name, an attack on the patriarch feels like an attack on you too. And Kimmel knows this. That's why his humor doesn't just poke fun at surface level stuff like Don Jr.'s gaffes or demeanor. It digs deeper, calling out the absurdity of the whole empire they're trying to uphold. In a way, what Kimmel really did was hold a mirror up to Don Jr.'s insecurities. The fact that Don Jr. responded to jokes by essentially making himself the punchline proves exactly what Kimmel was saying all along. So could this be the most ironic case of can't take a joke in modern memory? It might just be. How does a Wall Street nickname turn into a full-blown meme hurricane? 2 words, Trump and Taco. Let me explain. The nickname Taco, short for Trump always chickens out, was originally just a bit of insider lingo passed around among Wall Street types. It wasn't meant for the spotlight, but it perfectly summed up a growing critique of Trump, his tendency to dodge commitment or back down when things got messy. For a while, it stayed in financial circles, a private little jab at Trump's behavior. But then Jimmy Kimmel got a hold of it, and like everything Kimmel loves to poke fun at, it didn't stay private for long. Kimmel didn't just mention it in passing, he practically gave Taco its late-night debut.
For listening to their doctors. Right? You understand? Like, am I supposed to know more? Oh, Don Jr. doesn't know anything about it. I'm not an accountant. I'm a business guy.
The father of hotel gyms. He said, maybe someone put a gym in a building somewhere, but no one did it at the scale of my father. He's saying that as no one did it at the scale of my father. He's saying that his father, the father of the hotel gym, is a guy who's never stepped inside one. It's an idea he got from our My Pillow pal, Mike Lindell, who promised Trump he would be reinstated August 13th, 2021, 8 months into Biden's term. I guess that didn't happen?
During one of his shows, Kimmel went all in, delivering the nickname with his typical smirk and a comedic pause, letting the audience soak in the absurdity. You know how Wall Street has started calling him Taco? He said, clearly enjoying the setup because Trump always chickens out. The line got a hit of laughter, but it wasn't just the delivery. The magic of a joke like this is its simplicity. The nickname has this ridiculous, almost playground-style ring to it that makes people laugh, while at the same time, the message is unmistakably sharp. The nickname became less of a metaphor and more of a bullseye aimed at Trump's ego. Trump, of course, couldn't ignore it. When reporters brought it up, he didn't laugh it off or joke back. Instead, he called the question nasty in that classic Trump tone, the same one he uses when he's been caught off guard. It only fueled the fire. Trump's sensitivity to criticism is nothing new, and this oddly specific name clearly struck a nerve. By addressing it instead of dismissing it, he only gave it more legs to stand on. Suddenly, what once belonged to the offices of Wall Street traders had made its way into dinner conversations, Twitter threads, and the front page of Reddit. And that's when the internet completely broke loose.
In 2018, Donald Trump, who was at that time president of the United States, was so upset about my jokes that I made about him, he directed his staffers at the White House to call Disney to tell them to rein me in, who was calling to try to get someone out of prison because he suspected she'd voted for Joe Biden. And he also reports that Trump was obsessed with a totally bananas idea that he could somehow be reinstated as president. Who fathered Eric and Don Jr. would know how to handle jokes, but I guess not. The article says news of these calls spread around the corridors of power in Washington. Wow, what a plot twist. The report says at least 2 calls were made from the Trump White House to, quote, convey the president's anger regarding Kimmel's monologues and jabs. In other words, President Karen demanded to speak to my manager.
As if waiting patiently for their cue, meme makers got to work. Within hours, there were AI-generated images of Trump as an actual taco, his orange-tinted face peeking out from a shell stuffed with lettuce and sour cream. One popular version had a sombrero photoshopped onto his head with tiny taco hands holding a bankruptcy notice. Another widely shared image featured Trump riding in a taco-shaped car while a massive chicken loomed in the background. Across Twitter, captions like "extra salty," "holds the spice," and "America's soggiest taco" were everywhere. If the memes weren't enough, TikTok users threw their hats in the ring, remixing clips of Trump flubbing responses at rallies with taco-themed jingles. The sheer variety was astounding. Some even got creative with the infamous MAGA slogan, swapping it out for "Make Tacos Great Again." The memes didn't just mock Trump, they exaggerated every part of the taco nickname to absurd levels, ensuring it would stick in the public consciousness. The real genius behind how this nickname exploded is how humor spreads online. Experts say internet jokes work best when they're easy to grasp and leave room for people to add their own spin. The taco nickname checked all the boxes. It's short, it's silly, it's visually adaptable, and because it carried a bite of political commentary, it gave people a way to mock Trump without relying on overtly complex language or debates. Memes like these thrive in moments of collective energy. Everyone piles on and responds to it, and before you know it, the joke becomes bigger than the original story itself. The internet, it seems, doesn't just love a good roast, it's built for it. Of course, Trump's reaction didn't help matters. By calling attention to the nickname, he amplified it, and instead of crafting some clever clapback or pretending he didn't care, his angry denial only reinforced what made the joke funny in the first place. People weren't just sharing these memes because they were amusing.
It's an idea he got from our My Pillow pal, Mike Lindell, who promised Trump he would be reinstated August 13th, 2021, 8 months into Biden's term. I guess that didn't happen? Sat down on his balls for an interview with Univision where he was taken to task on a number of subjects by one of the toughest journalists in any language. You see where this is going?
Mr. Trump, first question. Stormy Daniels say you have a chalupa that is very small. ¿Es verdad?
I do.
They were also a form of critique wrapped in humor. The louder Trump's disdain for the nickname became, the more people leaned into it. His inability to simply ignore the joke gave it longer legs to run on. In terms of public image, this whole taco meltdown wasn't exactly flattering for Trump. For years, his branding revolved around confidence, strength, and, as he loved to put it, winning. But this was the exact opposite of winning. Seeing someone who claims to be so tough unravel over a joke made it clear to onlookers just how carefully Trump's image is built and how easily satire can knock it down. The simplicity of the taco nickname, it's just 4 words, made it so much worse for him. That's the thing about humor like this. It doesn't need a lot of explaining to hit its target, and by the time the dust settled, taco wasn't just some throwaway nickname anymore. It had joined the roster of internet-driven Trump parodies, alongside everything from Cuffy Faye to the infamous Sharpie map incident. Trump tried in his way to fight back, but the damage was done. No tweet or defensive headline could put this one to rest. Instead, taco solidified itself as a symbol of mockery, a reminder of how Trump's thin skin and outsized reactions can backfire spectacularly. So what does it say about Trump's relationship with satire and the internet? Well, for one, it's a losing battle. The more he tries to control the narrative, the more he becomes a part of the punchline. And if the taco saga is any indication, it's clear the internet won't be slowing down anytime soon. Imagine being so fired fired up over a late-night joke that you actually called Disney twice. Not to pitch show ideas, but to complain. That's exactly what Donald Trump reportedly did back in 2018 when he was president, after Jimmy Kimmel roasted him during one of his monologues. Yes, somewhere between nuclear codes and trade deals, the leader of the free world decided he needed to make some calls about a comedian making fun of him on ABC. If that sounds a bit surreal, it's because it absolutely is. According to reports, Trump didn't just fume about the jokes privately. He directed White House staff to call Disney, which owns ABC, and by extension, Kimmel's show. These weren't just casual, "Hey, how's Mickey Mouse?" types of calls either. No, these were angry calls supposedly aimed at pressuring Disney to rein Kimmel in. The absurdity here is hard to overlook. A sitting president, someone surrounded by advisors, strategists, and international crises, apparently set all that aside to call out monologue jokes on late-night TV. Kimmel's response to this bombshell was about what you'd expect. He called the whole situation a plot twist, perfectly summing up the ridiculousness of what had happened. The joke about Trump getting so worked up over Kimmel's jokes practically wrote itself, and Kimmel didn't miss the opportunity to point that out. But here's the kicker. This wasn't exactly out of character for Trump, who spent much of his public life lashing out at criticism, from calling the media the enemy of the people to singling out specific comedians like Alec Baldwin or SNL as unfunny and sad. Trump has a long record of not only reacting to jokes, but escalating them into full-blown feuds. Sending the White House to bat against Kimmel, however, took it to new levels. It wasn't just about his personal irritation anymore. It was now using the presidency to try to silent satire, which only made him look weaker, not stronger. The irony here speaks for itself. Trump, a man who frequently boasts about his power, couldn't handle being ribbed by a late-night host. In a democracy that champions free speech, especially the kind that pokes fun at the people in charge, this kind of overreaction feels almost cartoonish. The president isn't supposed to be the guy screaming "no fair" when someone makes fun of him, and yet here he was, reportedly mobilizing the White House to do what exactly? Tell Mickey Mouse to turn off Kimmel's microphone? Kimmel's jokes at the time hadn't even been particularly groundbreaking for what's considered late-night comedy. He had made fun of Trump's speeches, his obsession with crowd sizes, and his, let's say, loose relationship with the truth. Sure, they weren't flattering, but they weren't out of the ordinary either. Every president, yes, even Obama, has been through the late-night joke ringer, but Trump's reaction to it is what made the situation spiral. Instead of brushing it off or coming back with his own quippy remarks, he tried to make it disappear, and in doing so, he only gave it more visibility. The Streisand effect. Anyone? This wasn't just about one particular joke. Trump's history with comedians tells the broader story of someone who views humor not as good-natured ribbing, but as a threat. His infamous beef with SNL, for instance, included countless tweets targeting Alec Baldwin's portrayal of him as terrible and unfunny, and even suggesting that the show shouldn't be allowed to air such sketches. Then there was his constant jabbing at late-night hosts like Stephen Colbert and Seth Meyers, often dismissing their work as failing or dishonest, a strange critique when you consider their entire job is to make people laugh, not provide breaking news. The 2018 Disney debacle fits neatly into this pattern. Trump's attempts to silence Kimmel only gave the comedian a bigger platform. Once the news broke about those White House calls, it became fresh material for jokes, not just for Kimmel, but for every late-night show out there. They didn't let up. Kimmel even capitalized on the irony, quipping that it was the honor of a lifetime to have rattled Trump so deeply that he felt the need to pick up the phone twice. The whole thing raises a bigger question about Trump's approach to power. For someone who often presents himself as unshakable, his sensitivity to jokes from comedians suggests otherwise. A leader who truly felt secure wouldn't feel so rattled over a punchline that he'd lean on the influence of his office to try and squash it. It's moments like these that reveal the fragility behind the bravado. In trying to control the narrative, Trump only ends up showing how little control he actually has over how people perceive him. But there's more to it than just irony. The clash between Trump and Kimmel underscores the power of comedy in challenging authority. Satire is a unique tool in that way. It can simplify complex problems into digestible critiques, and it can cut through personalities in ways serious journalism sometimes can't. By reacting so strongly, Trump elevated Kimmel's position as a satirist who could land punches that clearly stung. Cartoonish overreactions like these don't suppress comedy, they amplify it. And for Kimmel, the result was an even louder megaphone. In the end, what could have been just just another throwaway routine became a defining example of Trump's struggles with criticism. His response to Kimmel, and by extension to anyone who pokes fun, has only served to fuel the narratives he's trying so hard to escape. It's not the jokes themselves that damage Trump's image, it's his reaction to them, and with every overreaction, he proves just how much satire gets under his skin. Funny how that works, isn't it? Humor has this sneaky way of pulling back the curtain on power. When Jimmy Kimmel called out the Trumps, it didn't just make people laugh, it exposed their insecurities. Don Jr. dialing the cops over a joke. That's not strength, it's a tantrum. And Trump losing it over being called taco? Come on, that's comedy writing itself. Their overreactions prove the point. Satire works because it cuts deeper than they'll admit. So next time someone in power stumbles over a punchline, ask yourself, what does that say about them? And more importantly, why is the joke always a little too real?